Welcome back to the Cage Walk podcast with Kayla, presented by Oddsmoker MMA. Tonight, I have the one and only Miranda the Maverick. I am so happy to have you on, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to do it. Let's talk about all the things.
I love all the things. Um, First and foremost, as everyone knows, man, congratulations. You are a brand new mom to a beautiful baby girl.
Yeah, thank you. There's nothing like it. She's perfect. I keep telling everybody I think it's a blessing for her. Hopefully give her a much better life than she would have had, but also such a blessing for us. Being a parent is one of those things that I knew I'd love and knew I'd enjoy and hopefully be the best mom. But man, I never expected this like different kind of love to enter my life. It's like this whole sensation and it's just been a blessing every single day with her. And we're looking forward to like being settled and having a routine going and all that. It's been quite the process for the last few weeks.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, adoption, birth, whatever. I mean, it's definitely it takes a lot, and I have so much respect for people who go the adoption route as I was adopted when I was 8. So that's really what I want to talk about, is your process through that. I know it had been a lot of ifs and whens and back and forth and so why don't we talk about your journey? Let's start with why you've always wanted to adopt.
Yeah, so I kind of have a funny background of that, somewhat funny, I guess you'd say. My husband and I, on our second date, mentioned adoption and talked about adoption with each other. And it's not like we were already talking about kids or anything. We were just talking about hopes and dreams and values and things of that nature. And, do you want to have kids? Do you want to have kids? And it was like, yeah, someday I'd love to have my own children. Here's the number amount. But I've always loved the idea of adopting too. And that's always been one of the things I've always wanted to do. And he was like, me too. That's incredible. Like, I don't know if I want it to be my first kid or not, but I'd love to adopt. And here we are, not only adopting, but it is our first child. And she's just so special. She's sitting right here. For those of you who don't know, I'm trying to make sure she's not throwing a fit while we're on the phone. But it's just been amazing. And one of the reasons that we like the idea of adoption is both of us came from pretty good families and households. And it's one of those things where I think you should really spread that. If you have good values and morals and have the financial stability for it and everything, give a child a good life. People are always talking about, like, for instance, I'm very passionate about abortion. I am so anti-abortion. And the main argument you hear is, well, why don't you just adopt them? That's the only way you're ever going to help these kids, or else they're going to end up in, foster homes and all this. And I'm like, well, foster homes better than not existing.
Amen.
And I'm like, yeah, I do think more people should adopt, but the government makes that a very hard process. And I am one person who knows that from head to tail now at this point. One, you have to go into public adoption, which is more foster homes and everything. And some of us aren't fit for that lifestyle. Like for me, my heart breaks every time I see a kid and would have to say goodbye or anything. I knew that wasn't the path I wanted to take. And we're also pretty young parents. I didn't want to have a kid that was older and that I didn't get to raise through the whole process. They come with a lot of baggage and trauma and the ex family and all that. And there's a lot of things you have to think about. And not saying that's not a beautiful thing. Like, I'm so glad you found a great family to adopt you and everything. It's amazing. It's such a blessing. When we were at the courthouse, we saw like 8 kids get adopted, and it was just like waterworks over here. I was like bawling my eyes out the whole time. But for us, it was like, I want to go the private route so that we don't have to deal with all the government nonsense, so that we can get nationwide adoption. And the issue was one, expense, two, the length of the process is insane. And then for those that are familiar with this process, CPS is Children's Protective Services. So a lot of these mothers, these birth mothers that are giving up their child to adoption or doing an open adoption like we did, their main thing is they have backgrounds that are not so great. And that's the reason they're having to give up this child, whether it be trauma in a relationship, whether they cheated on a husband while they were in jail, kind of thing, like whatever it be, or drugs is a lot of it too. Usually, the government gets involved with these children no matter what. The mother has to make the decision to contact someone for adoption before they get to the hospital to have this child. And the saddest part is when you get to the hospital, say the state gets involved and say, I'm going to take this child, they don't even give the mothers a chance to adopt. They say we're taking them. They don't even give them 1 hour to decide. And I find that to be despicable. I think that it should be one of those things where it's like, here's what's going to happen. We're going to take this kid. They're going to go in a foster home. You'll have the opportunity to get them back. But if you'd like this child to have a good life overall and you don't have that stability for them, there is the option of adoption. And I think that they should have hotlines available for that, but most just don't know. They aren't told those options. The government doesn't make that known to them. And therefore, you have hundreds of families like myself and Pete waiting years for a little girl or a little boy to come into their life. And meanwhile, they just get shipped out to foster homes. And if you do adoption that way, it takes like 3 years to ever get that paperwork done.
Mm. That's just so sad for those kids too, and the
It
mothers.
is. Yeah.
The government is just it's failed. It's
It
just,
has. It has. But it also led me, not just the government part, but man, not to talk crap on her mother or whatever else, but a lot of these birth mothers are just in such bad spots. And then sometimes it can be really hard to empathize. You get to the point where it's like you start with empathy, you see the situation, and then like it gets down the road and down the road, and it's like, we get emails about certain issues where it's like, hey, we can tell this kid's going to be disabled just from ultrasounds and all this. We've spoke with the mother. She's smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol on a daily basis. She says she's not willing to stop for the kid or anything, even though she knows there's damage. Who's willing to go for this adoption? It's like, man, like how evil and bad can you be to like let this poor little kid like just rot in your stomach basically because you're too lazy to do anything about it. You're not seeking help, you don't want help. These people are offering free counseling services, free rehab services, all this stuff, and they just say, nah, I mean, they'll take the kid however they get it.
yeah,
And
and
it's just like, it's such a selfish lifestyle. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you're girl. This is your interview, and I love the conversation because I mean, I don't usually talk a lot about me in my interviews, but as you like, I'm so passionate about this as well. I mean, I come from a drug addict mother. I come from a terror, and for me, like, it's so hard because, like, she put me in foster care, then she'd want me back, then back in foster care and want me back,
Mhm.
and I'll be honest, I'm a recovering addict.
Mhm.
I unfortunately fell in her path because of her. She's the one who got me on it. And I ended up having my own daughter. Thankfully, though, I was clean and sober when I had her.
Mhm.
Now when I look at her, I'm like, I can never put you through the crap I went through. And
Yeah.
we talk about these babies whose moms who won't stop doing these. And when I look at her, I'm like, how did my mother do that to me? Like I could
Mhm.
never. So like I understand what you're saying. I can relate, and I agree.
Yeah.
It's just I am grateful that I did get myself together before I,
Yeah.
got pregnant and had her.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just so. Let me ask you this: so, when you said that you went private, did you know you were going to adopt Renegade while her mom was pregnant, biological?
Um, 3 weeks beforehand is when we got in contact with her through an acquaintance. And she might be able to see this or whatever, so I'm gonna keep it like short and sweet. But got in contact with her. It was a heck of a roller coaster. It was, yep, 100% doing adoption. We got sent ultrasound pictures, all of it, and we were like, oh my God, thank you so much for making this happen. The way that we heard about it was just one of those things that God was involved. Like we ended up going to a meeting with an old friend that I hadn't talked to in like 4 years, changed the location we were going to go to eat with him. And then when we got there, ended up hearing from an acquaintance she was a waitress there where I actually used to waitress. And
Oh,
she ended
wow.
up being like, hey, I saw you guys are doing adoption. I know someone that may be interested in that. And it just like the pieces fell together. And it's like, man, there's no way that that isn't some divine intervention? And so for us, it was like, wow, God's working in our lives. This is going to happen. And then, the birth mother ghosted for like a week and a half after we had already said like, yep, we're good to go. Everything's good. And then just no contact. And that was heartbreaking. It was so hard, gut wrenching, bawling every day kind of thing. Cause it's like such an emotional thing. We've been waiting for this. And, I have family and friends. They're like, hey, she's not even yours yet. Like quit being so upset about it, or don't let this person who's made so many bad decisions in their life affect you. Like, try to just wait it out. And when it happens, it happens. If not, keep just hoping for the next thing. God will bring in blessings into your life. But I was like, no, I know this is meant to be like the way that this came into happening, it has to be. Or this is a huge lesson I need to learn in patience. I'm not sure. And so, like 3 days before little Renegade was born, we get a call. We hadn't ever been in contact with her over call, just text from her mother saying, basically, I've decided to go with you guys for adoption. I've called my lawyer that you guys gave me. I'm gonna make this happen. And it was just like, of course, waterworks, crying, me and my husband looking at each other, like crying. And we headed straight to Missouri. And that's where my family lives too. So it was one of those things where it was like, what are the odds it ends up being here in this way? And so we went there. She ended up being born. She's way heavier than she was expected to be because of the drug use. They said anywhere from 3.5 to 4 pounds. NICU baby, most likely. And we were like, okay, the ultrasound doctors and then the nurses at the hospital were all like, yep, she's going to be really small. She comes out and we hear 5 pounds and we were just like, what? This is incredible. So she was born 5 pounds 7 ounces, which was another miracle in and of itself. And it's like people are still like, oh, that's so small. And I'm like, no, this is huge compared to what we thought she was going to be. So we're just like, wow, she's a little miracle baby. And came out with very few like symptoms of anything and slowly like came out of any that she did have. And she's just perfect. She's so active. She's so perfect. Yeah, her name's Renegade. So kind of meaningful in that way, and she's just awesome. It was a stressful experience at the hospital. Took several days, for the mom to recover and everything to sign power of attorney. Then had to wait another week and a half to get, or not a week and a half, but like a week to get the court documents done. And now we're still waiting on getting clearance to go to Colorado. But she is officially 11 days old today.
That story is amazing, and God really does work in mysterious ways, And it when because I followed you for a while now, and and I know you've talked to my husband before during this process, and never really, said, but you can put pieces together, obviously. And it's like that Bible verse, Jeremiah 29:11, which is my absolute favorite Bible verse. It's for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future, And when he went through this with Renegade, like he knew what he was doing, And I love that you were such a believer and, in Christ and whatnot. And you knew he had a plan, and it's just amazing. I love stories like this. I really do. Now I want to get into well, you can totally deny and not answer this question, but the her biological mother, will she have any contact with her?
Yeah, so this is an open adoption. That's why I'm trying to like kind of be a safe side of everything. It is an open adoption. She'll get to visit her once a year if she so chooses and initiates that. Same with a couple FaceTimes and pictures. And she's been nice and communicative with us and everything so far. And I hope it blooms into a good relationship. And more than anything, I don't really care about our relation side of it. I just hope it ends up being the best thing for Renegade and benefits her life regardless of what ends up happening. And she'll, it's been kind of one of those hard things. It's like, how do you tell them? How do you decide? But I'm going to be very clear that she was adopted as she grows up and all that, and let her know like how God worked in her life and like what a blessing it is that she ended up where she is, and how it's a blessing for us too. But like, look at the path that could have been taken for her in many other ways. And we hope to just give her the best opportunity she can have.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad that she'll have the opportunity to hopefully get to know her as well. I want
Yeah.
to kind of jump to another topic.
Yeah, no worries.
And not that I want to talk, I just have so many questions and so much to talk about. So as we know, you have a fight coming up. What is training looking like being a new mom? How are you having, but the work life, training life, family life, and you also have a business. So like, how's
Yeah.
that going? I mean, I know you're still new with the whole mom, this just started, but it's something you have to think about and
Right.
prepare for.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've been my whole MMA career, I've been working full time. I went to school full time for several years, and then I have my own business, and I train, you know, so it was wild already. Now I don't have my job right this second, which is awesome. Get to spend some time with Rennie. I still have training. I still have my own business, but I'm kind of taking a step back from that and getting some hired help with that, which has been nice. I'm having other people do some of my gun shows and markets and things like that, which usually take up a lot of my weekends and daytime trying to get things ready to go for it. And then training, man, it's just working around. Like she came to training today with me, and it's one of those things where we won't have a schedule solidified until we get home and get everything put together to where we can schedule our nighttime, schedule our days. But the biggest help has been Pete. You know, he's taken over a lot of the night feeding so that I can get my sleep in because that's the most important thing for this camp that I would have lacked is sleep. And so trying to get in those full like 6, 7 hours so that I can sleep fully, take naps in the afternoon if needed, and get in training because obviously this is the biggest fight of my career too. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, she's the biggest blessing I've ever had. And I got the call for the fight like 2 weeks before we knew about her. And it was just like all at once, just a snowball running down the hill. And I was like, no, this is amazing. Like, I know these are all blessings put in my way. And no matter what happens, like I always tell everybody, fighting is such a small fraction of my life. It's meaningless at the end of the day. It's just a way that I can entertain people. It's a way that put my platform out there to where I can hopefully spread my testimony and spread God and make a better life for Renegade and my family. And that's the ultimate goal of fighting. You know, I don't really care about the glory myself. I just want to give glory to the Most High, and I want to be able to inspire others and be a role model for children out there. That's the main idea for me. Of course, I love winning. I don't really like getting punched in the face and then losing. I'd rather get punched in the face and win, you know, and get a full paycheck. And that's the goal here, you know, co-main event on a UFC event. I tell people every time I fight, it's one of those realistic things that's just, I never thought I'd be here and I shouldn't be here. Like God's the only reason I'm here. Like I was a country girl growing up, knew I was strong and athletic, but my plan was to be in a suit every day of my life, going into work as an accountant or an industrial psychologist as a consultant, you know. And here I
Wow.
am not only doing my job as a statistician and have a good job, but then also being able to fight and make a living doing this, going from making a grand a fight, you know, for years and just literally paying to fight basically and being poor as dirt waitressing and stuff to UFC calling me during COVID and my life changed, you know, and my whole family's life has changed as a result from it. And it's just been incredible. What a journey, you know, no matter what happens in the future.
You definitely have an amazing story. I love it. Um, wow. Yeah, yeah. So just do a quick little talk. So you had this whole plan for your future. At what point did you do MMA? And that's what you decided, or God showed you that's what you're gonna do.
Yeah, so that's a long story too. So one thing that's like, wow, so talk about signs. Like I was 13, 14, however old I was, sitting on the sofa. We used to watch UFC when I was young. My dad and myself and my brother and my sister would all wrestle around in our living room for an hour a day almost. And we didn't just like goof around. We were learning moves. Like we'd stop and pause the TV when we were watching the fights and we'd turn on YouTubes to try to figure out how to do moves better. And my dad, you know, he's like 230 and he's sitting there like showing us little kids the moves and like, nope, grab it this way and tighten it. And he had no formal training himself, but we still all learned it. And so we're sitting there and I see the first ever women's fight in the UFC come on. And it was Ronda Rousey versus Liz Carmouche. We're sitting there watching one of the fight nights. And I was like, girls do this? And my dad's like, they do now. I was like, that's so cool, you know? And he's like, yeah, isn't it? I bet you could do that one day. And I was like, ha, you know, I'm laughing about it. And I'm like, no, thanks. And he's like, what? You were like raised for this crap. You get hit by cows and everything else. That couldn't hurt you that bad. And I was like, no, no, I did not want punched in the face. That was the end of the conversation. Okay, that was the end of it. Now, flash forward 3, 4 years, I turned 16 and I come up to my dad and I'm like, Dad, I really want to do jujitsu. I want to go to a gym and I want to do jujitsu. And the closest gym is an hour and 15 minutes away. And I want to do it. And he was like, all right, well, you have your own car, find a way to pay for it and go ahead after school though. And I was like, okay. And so, you know, he said find a way to pay for it, but he ended up helping me. And him and my little brother helped me chop wood. and we literally cut firewood and sold it. And that's how I paid for my first few months of gym fees. And I went to Springfield Fight Club in Springfield, Missouri. Well, technically, I went to a McDojo first. So I always joke about I went to this joke of a gym that like the coach was a blue belt. And at the time I was like, cool, that's good. But I was beating like the juveniles and the adults within the first few weeks. And I was like 16 years old. And I was like, I really want to compete. And they were like, we don't really encourage competing here. And I literally left that day. I was like, all right, bye. Thanks so
I
much for what you taught me. And I went over to Springfield Fight Club, which is where I stayed with until I turned pro. I literally trained there this last week because when I go back home, they're the closest gym. And when I got there, I literally got my butt whooped, Kayla. It was like the first day I go in there, everybody's in these weird things called gis, and I had never seen them before because even at the other gym, it was all no gi. And I go in there and I'm like, I don't have one of those, you know? And they were like, well, you've got to get one. And I'm like, I can't, I'm too poor. Like, I don't have the money for that, you know? They're like, it's 100 and whatever it was, probably $120 or something at the time. And I was like, oh, there's no way. I was like mind boggled that they wanted that much money. And I was only going every other Thursday. And that's when I went. And they gave me this old, everybody jokes about there because they remember it. They give me this old A3 gi. Now, if you're familiar, A3 is like for the 240-pound boys. Okay. It's a big old gi. And they rolled it up for me. And I like sewed the little cuffs on it. And that's how I wore this big, heavy butt gi for the longest time. And started training doing the jujitsu. And by the time I turned 18, which was the legal process, a lot of the coaches, everybody was on me. They were like, Miranda, you've got to do MMA. You've got to give it a shot. And I was like, no, I really like jujitsu. This is great. And I had been competing. I had won all the adults women's divisions I'd ever entered. I had won the juvenile divisions, and which is boys and girls up to 18. And I'd placed in some of the men's divisions because in Missouri there were so few women, they'd let you compete in the men's division at the time. And I'd done awesome. And they were like, Miranda, you'll be good at it. You got to try it. And so I told myself, I was like, you know what? Why not? Maybe this is the path I need to go on. I'm going to go fight one time. And if I like it, and this girl, I'm able to punch her in the face without saying sorry every 2 seconds, and I do good and end up winning, I'll go be the best I can be. And if I lose or I don't like it or I'm saying sorry the whole time, I'll quit and I'll say it was a bucket list item and that was it. Well, I had my first fight. I won in a minute and a half via submission against a lady who'd been training about 8 years. And the rest is history.
Here we are today.
Here we are today.
And I didn't mean to be on the phone. I had to look up what it looked
You're
like. The
good.
gi. And yeah,
Yeah, there you go. It's
that's
like a
funny.
kimono, just a little tougher and thicker.
Yeah, so I had when you said that, and I was like, I haven't seen what that one looks like, so I had to look it up, and that's funny. Definitely hard to see. I can only imagine how much smaller you were when you first started out. So to
I
see,
honestly was the same size. I have not grown since I was like 12 years old. I always joke I've gained a little more muscle, but honestly, I've been weighing the same and looking the same since I was like 13, 14 years old. And everybody jokes, they're like, I think you got skinnier. I'm like, definitely leaner.
well, yeah, that is funny. I definitely had to, and wow, that's like we keep saying, man, God leads us, and so
Mhm.
that's you got some great stories about everything. I love this. uh, what is so? I don't want to ask too many questions, just because you haven't fought yet. But what is camp looking like so far? Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I have obviously got a little disrupted with everything for the adoption, but what I did is I just trained out there where I was. Like I said, it was back home in Springfield, which is right by Springfield Fight Club where I started out. So I just went there and trained every day, got in my striking, got in my bag work, got in my wrestling, whatever I needed. And then once we got cleared at the hospital, we were able to travel wherever we want in the state. So I'm out here in Kansas City, Missouri, and I train over at Trey Ogden's gym and Marathon MMA, and it's just been amazing. I mean, they have a lot of great 135ers, 125ers to work with. I have one of my better friends that started at Springfield. Well, didn't start there, but he came to Springfield Fight Club and trained there with me for the longest time. Garrett Armfield, he's in the UFC now as well. A lot of these guys are in the UFC, high level pros, low level pros, some AMIs, all the above at this gym, and they all give me great work. The only female here is Amanda Torres right now, but she's an Invicta, so she's a good fighter as well. And then get back out to Colorado and start kicking some butt, getting back on my routine. But man, they kick my butt out here too. It's like 2 trainings a day and I'm dying. And when I go back to Colorado, it'll be 2 to 3 trainings a day. And the nicest thing about being back home is the coaches, I think, and just having that game plan there and me having some rhythm and consistency in my schedule.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, with the inconsistency now and getting it solved for, a great uh what's it called? Reason. Um
Yeah.
okay, so I just got the 10-minute warning, of course.
Okay.
Um so we'll kind of I mean, we've this has been great conversation. When I just maybe just one more question.
Okay.
Is there because obviously every opponent's different that you have, is there anything that you this camp and that you really have to focus on?
Well, this game's so different. So, I don't know what you know of the background, but Rose and I train together all the time. So we spar together, we've done grappling together, wrestling together, all the above. She comes to my gym, I go to her gym. And so when I got the call about the fight, it was like, okay, awesome opportunity. We had almost said yes to a fight against each other when Tracy got moved up to fight her in Denver, because Tracy got taken as my opponent. There was like weird negotiations going on and her team was like, "Would you fight her?" And I was like, "Sure, heck yeah!" And it was going to be main event in Denver. Ended up not working out because Tracy ended up finally renegotiating him taking that. But this time around, I was like, all right, I'm going to call her team. And my coach called her team too. And when I called Pat, which is her husband, they were sitting there and I was like, hey, you get the news? And he's like, hey, we already said yes. So how's it go? And I was like, all right, making sure there's no hard feelings or anything. He's like, heck no, this is a fight world. Let's get it done. Be friends after. And I was like, all right, so be it. And so that's kind of how we both look at it. I think Rose is awesome. She's always been an inspiration. I've been watching her fight since I was a kid, basically. She was one of those, like, starting out in the fight world that was one of those that I was like, heck yeah, I remember watching live her flying armbar that she got back in Invicta. And that's kind of what, like, started her road to fame for Tough and all that. And it was just awesome to watch her and now getting to train with her and now back to being a rival basically is kind of a full circle moment for me. So I'm just honored to share the cage with her. It's one of those things that because we've sparred together and trained together so much, like every week for the last year and a half, it's like, okay, we're going to have to definitely game plan on our own, like split up our teams, make sure that we're trying to do what we need to do. And we both know each other's strengths and we both know each other's weaknesses. We know what works for each other. I know how she defends things. She knows how I defend her things, and it's just going to be an amazing fight. I think everybody's going to see a heck of a war out there. People who are casuals or don't know are like, you're going to get beat up. She has this high of caliber fights, or, oh, you're bigger and stronger. I'm like, guys, this is just going to be a back and forth. Like, this is going to be a battle. That's all there is to it, just from evidence of our training that we've had.
Definitely looking forward to it. And obviously, I'm a fan of you. I'm also a fan of Rose. So I am looking forward to this. But I feel like that can also make it difficult. You know each other's weaknesses and strengths. So, I mean, because of that, I think this is going to be a true battle. It's going
Yeah.
to be because you have trained together. So,
Yep.
definitely looking forward to that. So totally up to you. If you have anything else to add, I can end it. We can start another one, or if you want to end it here, I can. We can do our clothing.
Yeah.
Clothing
I think this is
today.
good, but I would like to tell everybody I do have my own business. If you want to check it out, it's prowlerpickles.com/honey shop if you want to check out the honey. And then I also have fearthemaverick.com. That's where all my merchandise is, from shirts to hats to autographed gloves, autographed pictures, whatever you want. And I'll be having a couple new t-shirt designs coming out within the next week or two to pre-order and then order before my fight. And actually, her husband's the one that designed the designs that I'll have on it. So you got to check it out. You got to support both of us. It'll be awesome.
Definitely, and definitely get the pickles. So it's like I am not a fan of pickles, but I ate that entire jar in like 2 days. Like, and actually, I was talking to my husband. I was like, I've had to order more. Like, It's
That's
been a while.
awesome.
So I will be placing an order tonight, by the way.
Yeah, I'll give you a code so
Uh,
you can get it on a little discount. I also have pickled jalapenos now, candied jalapenos, asparagus, apple butter. That's one of my newest things, all kinds of different stuff. So I'll actually have those added by tonight on my site. So if you want me to, I can message you as soon as I have them up.
I was about to say, yeah, definitely shoot me a message because I'll be getting a few things.
Perfect.
Now, throw in my little thing here. Anyone looking for a sponsorship? We do merch designs, we do promotional designs. I do my podcast. To reach out for those. Miranda, what socials can we find you on?
At Fear the Maverick on everything. So at Fear the Maverick, pretty simple. It's on X, it's on TikTok now. So the new TikTok, go follow me on there. Instagram, Facebook, soon enough YouTube, but not quite yet.
Well, Miranda, thank you so much for joining me. This has been an amazing conversation, and I can't wait to see you. Don't hang up yet. I'm going to stop recording.
No worries. I can't wait either. I'm really excited about the fight and I'm really excited about being a mom, all of it.
Congratulations, and thank you so
Thank
much for joining.
thank you.